I'm Michael Chigani. Get ready for some straight talk with Agnes Chow. Now, Agnes Chow, thank you for being here. Let me introduce you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Huh?
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, that's fine. You are Agnes Chow Ting, student group Scholarism, right?
Yes.
Now, you were a familiar face leading up to Occupy Central, Scholarism spokesperson at the time.
Yeah.
Then suddenly you disappeared.
Not
What
really
happened?
disappear. I resigned from the post of spokesperson during the Occupy movement because during the umbrella movement, I faced some great pressure, quote unquote great pressure, not from family and friends, not from my school, not from my organization Scholarism, but some great pressure.
What kind of great pressure? From where? Not
I don't
from
know,
your school,
maybe,
not from your organization, from where?
I don't know, maybe you can guess it, I don't know, because I can't say it very clearly actually, but yeah.
Pressure from what? I mean, not from the police. Your own personal pressure? You feel you couldn't handle it?
Not really personal pressure, but some greater, much greater pressure. But
like
I
what?
can't say it very clearly actually, but yeah, pressure. Just
But
pressure.
it came from where? It didn't come from the police, it didn't come from the government, it didn't come from your family, it didn't come from your school. Where did it come from? Your lack of confidence?
Not really my personal pressure, but also not pressure from schools or family or organization, but some other much greater pressure that will not only harm me, myself, but also harm people around me. Yeah, I can just say it here.
Are you saying that the pressure came from somehow the central government?
I don't know. I don't really know actually where the pressure comes from, but I just can say that I have not enough ability to confront such a huge power.
Can you describe what kind of pressure it was?
I can just say that I have lots of different emotions during that month, and it is a really difficult month for me because I have never faced and confronted such a huge power, the really huge power. Yeah.
Why are you back now? Why are you back up in the spotlight?
Yeah,
again?
because actually I did not really disappear because I still joined Occupy movement, but not as a spokesperson of Scholarism, but I still act as a member of Scholarism. And after the Occupy movement, of course, during the Occupy movement, I lived there and I joined Occupy movement. And after Occupy movement, and I think that the pressure is kind of released, so I kind of stand up again and hope that I can do more for the organization and also for the whole movement.
Okay, the movement obviously to fight for democracy.
Yes.
Now, there is a democracy reform or political reform framework that the central government has put forward. It will go into the Legislative Council next month, and we all know it will be voted down. Now, Regina Yip, the legislative councillor, said if the framework is passed in LegCo by a very slim majority, then riots will break out or could break out in Hong Kong. Will your group, Scholarism, headed by Joshua Wong, will your group go into LegCo, surround LegCo as others have said they will do during the vote, and will there be violence if the reform is passed?
Actually, I think Regina Yip is just trying to scare Hong Kong people, and it's just trying to tell Hong Kong government and the central government that Hong Kong people will start a riot if something happens. She's just trying to scare Hong Kong people, but this is not real because what riot is when it will not happen in Hong Kong nowadays, I think.
Why do you think...
recently.
Why do you think she wants to scare Hong Kong people? And why do you think there will be no riots?
Of course, I can't promise that there will be no riots in the future in 50 years or 100 years. But I want to say that what Regina Yip said is just wrong because she's just trying to tell the Hong Kong people that the young people in Hong Kong is very horrible, and they try to start a lot of violence or riots in Hong Kong, and we should not support them. I think this is what her message is. But as a young people in Hong Kong and as a member of scholarism, we insist of using non-violence to fight for democracy. Of course, we can also understand some people may use violence to try to fight for something they need, such as democracy and justice, because of the escalation of violence of the police recently. But scholarism as an organization, we insist of using non-violence recently.
Okay, so you can say that even if the reform package is passed, there will be no violence, your group will not start any violence, there will be no riots if the reform package is passed. You can say that.
I can only
you can promise
say that. Of course, I cannot promise anything because I can't control everybody who joined the movement, and I can't control them. But I can only say that for me, non-violence is more useful than violence. And using when we're fighting for democracy and we are participating in civil disobedience.
Well, I asked you that question because Nathan Law, the head of Federation of Hong Kong Students, was here some weeks back, and he said if the reform package was passed, they could possibly break into the Legislative Council, and he described that as legitimate violence. Do you support that?
For me, whether it is a really justified violence, it have to see that what the protesters do. If they just break shops or private buildings, I think it's not really that justified. But in some extreme cases, if they really have no ways to change the whole policy or change the whole system, and they try to break some governmental building, I think sometimes they are justified. But in this time, in the in the legislature of discussing about the constitutional reform this time, I think whether it's justified or not, I have to see the situation at that time.
Okay, so you think it's not justified to break private buildings, but it could be justified to break government buildings, right?
Yes.
Okay, now you know what? You were out last week, I think, in the streets, and you bumped into Robert Chow Yong, who's collecting signatures to support the political reform. Let's see.
我同你對話，你等我等。
我哋就後面對話啫喎。我想問你點樣睇你嘅保普選街站大部分工場人問佢咩係政改，佢連政改係乜嘢都冇知。
佢哋係驚咗你哋，因為你哋惡啊嘛。中央冇主權，中央只係話俾你聽。
你肯定中央冇主權？
而家唔係簡單。
Now, Robert Chow said that people are afraid of you, the students. What were you arguing about?
Actually, because we are actually setting up a street station in Taiwan about the curriculum document about the basic law recently implemented by the government. And as coincidence, and we saw Robert Chow's press conference in Taiwan. And then I just came in front of him and want to argue with him, because in most of his street station, actually so many people, like the women who collect this as the signatures, they do not actually understand what the constitutional reform is. And they are just like, I don't know, they don't know anything about constitutional reform, but they come out to say, I support the proposal from the government.
Why do you think they don't know? I mean, they're not stupid.
Not really that I think they don't know, because actually many people just go around, because there are so many, more than 100 of street stations of Robert Chow recently, and just many Hong Kong citizens just go to their street station and ask them what is actually the constitutional reform about, and so many of them say that, I don't know, I only know that it is one person, one vote, that's all. And this is actually ridiculous. If you are the volunteers of the street station, how come you don't know what the constitutional reform is?
Oh, you mean the people who are asking others to sign the forms?
Yeah, the volunteers.
The volunteers don't know what.
The volunteers of Robert Chow's street station.
But you know, Robert Chow, he got 1 million signatures supporting the reform proposals. You cannot dismiss 1 million signatures, right?
Of course, I think these kinds of opinion can't be ignored. But also,
you agree they cannot be ignored?
I agree that they cannot be ignored. But of course, there are also a lot of ridiculous things in the street station because, like, some people saw that people who sign who give the signature in the street station, and they can get like a pack of soybean sauce, something like that. And just people ask them why when I sign in the street station I can get something
you
like
mean
presents.
he was giving out free gifts?
Yes, and people, there are photographs taken by people and saying that, yeah, actually they are giving out gifts when people sign. And also, like, the volunteers do not know what the constitutional reform is, and also people can sign for many times without checking. So I think there are lots of ridiculous things happening. Of course, we can't ignore such kind of opinion, but as a student organization, we can't also ignore the importance of real democracy. So we will continuously promote what we think democracy and universal suffrage is.
But you don't agree with Regina Yip that if the package is passed, that there will be riots?
I don't agree with this.
Others, you say you cannot control others. Can you say that there will be no violence if it is passed?
I can't say that there will be no violence because people's anger can be very strong if the policemen use great violence.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to take a quick break. See you soon. Thanks for sticking around. This is Straight Talk with Agnes Chow. Now, Agnes Chow, scholarism, student group scholarism, yes. Agnes Chow Ting, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just before the break, we talked about violence if the reform package was passed by a slim majority. In fact, many others have said that, including Ronnie Tong, the legislative councillor, that if it was passed by a very small majority of LegCo members, it will not be good for Hong Kong. Regina Yip says there could be riots. You don't think that there will be riots. Daisy Chan, the convener of the Civil Human Rights Front, who was here some weeks ago, she said during the vote she will get 100,000 people in LegCo. And if the package was passed, that those 100,000 people out there, it could become another Occupy movement. Do you think that will happen?
I can't say very exactly whether this will happen in the future, but I think that if the government continue to ignore and deny all of the opinion, all of the people who are fighting for democracy, who are fighting for like civil nomination or a kind of a real universal suffrage in Hong Kong, if they continuously to ignore these kinds of opinion, and that so people will try to do something to give pressure to the government, and this is maybe some kind like Occupy movement, maybe like I don't know, maybe different kind of movement. So the responsibility is on the government, but not on the people, because the government should have the responsibility to listen to all opinion, but we do not see that the government did that in the past.
You say that there could be, if the government doesn't listen, there could be another movement of some sort. Yeah. Will you join Daisy Chan and the Civil Human Rights Front as part of those 100,000 people? Will your scholarism group do that as well?
Actually, we have not discussed whether what will we do if later when the LegCo discuss about the constitutional reform proposal. But I just want to emphasize that if the government ignore our opinion, if the government never know what is democracy and what is equal.
What would you do?
And I don't know, maybe we have not discussed it yet, but we will try to do something. But of course, we will insist of using non-violence.
Will there be another Occupy movement?
I can only say that we will not exclude any possibility, yeah.
So there could be another Occupy movement?
That could be, but it depends on the situation. that day.
Okay, now you know what? If this reform package is vetoed, as it looks like it will be, the hope is that the central government will change its mind and give you what you want. Do you honestly believe the central government will offer you more?
I don't think that if we veto the proposal and then the central government will give us civil nomination. I don't really believe that. But what I think that is, if this proposal is a step backward comparing in the situation now, because although we have one person, one vote, but like the doorstep of entering the election is raised from 1/8 to 1/2, and it is really a step backward, but not a step forward. So I think that we should do what is right, and if this proposal is a non-democratic proposal, we should veto. It is just a responsibility.
Even though you don't think the central government will give you more?
Yes, because
you should still veto and go back to what we are now. Because
we should believe in what is right, and it's not things about like negotiation. Because this kind of one person, one vote is that if we accept this kind of proposal, and the central government will not have any change in the future, because he said that it is already the last chance for our change. But if we accept this one person, one vote, we can see that the central government will further control our election by the nominating committee of 1,200 people.
Okay, you say do what is right and not what is wrong. I'm going to show you a clip, and I'm going to ask you whether that is right or wrong.
Okay.
The biggest day in the life of...
Now, this was last week, Agnes. There was an inter-school debating competition.
Yes.
And Long Hair, Leung Kwok Hong, and others went into this debating contest just because Carrie Lam, the chief secretary, was there and disrupted it. You are a student. You're 18 years old. You're a university student. When students have a debating contest and people go in there and disrupt it, do you think that's right?
As I know, the protester did not disturb the competition, but they just tried to do their protest after the competition had completed. That is what I know, yeah.
But do you agree with that kind of tactics? It doesn't matter whether it was done before or after the actual debate. It was done during the whole event. It was a non-political event. Do you think that should happen? Because what happened was the students were robbed of their spotlight. The news just covered what happened, right, with the protesters. The students who were debating, they became a side story, although it was their night.
But I think in such a kind of non-political ceremony or non-political competition, but if they invited Carrie Lam as a guest to give out prizes to the students, and that Carrie Lam is a very kind of politically controversial figure nowadays. So this is what the problem is. But as I know, of course the protesters did not disrupt the competition. I do not agree in any action that they disrupt the competition itself, but as I know, the protesters did not do that. But if they kind of invite Carrie Lam as the guest, so they will have faced something like that, because Carrie Lam is representing the constitutional reform nowadays.
You're going around in circles. I want to ask you one more time, was that right or was that wrong? Do you support it?
I think in such a situation that in a very controversial issues, if you invite any controversial figures, there will be something happen like this.
So they're justified.
Because people have discontent, and they do
Are you saying they're justified, Agnes?
I think
they were justified in doing that.
This is justified because the government officials never listen to the protest opinion.
Okay. Now, you know what? I'm going to ask you about you being a student.
Yeah.
Students now and young people particularly have become a lot more radical than they were before. A lot of students, including your university, the Baptist University,
yes.
the student union has withdrawn from the Federation of Students. I know that there is a strong feeling of localism among young students in Hong Kong. Some of them even want independence, others are anti-mainland. Why is that?
I think the opinion of independence of Hong Kong is kind of very minorities, but most of them just want Hong Kong to keep kind of a distance to China, that China should not interrupt anything of Hong Kong. I think this is what their meaning is.
So you say you don't want China to interfere in Hong Kong at all? But it is one country, two systems.
This is some opinion of the localists, because of course there are lots of reasons, like the hatred to the regime, like the bad behavior of mainlanders, etc. So they try to, not only the central government, but some of the mainland, they will kind of have hatred towards some of the mainlanders who do bad behaviors.
Do you hate the mainland? Do you hate mainlanders? Are you a localist?
I don't think I'll hate all of the mainlanders, because for me, the kind of enemy is the regime, but not really the people. Because
why is the regime your enemy?
No, I can't say it's really an enemy, but I want to just directly say that my enemy is not people, but only kind of the government or the political system itself. Maybe, yeah.
So are you a localist?
I don't think so, I am.
But you do recognize China as your country?
For me, I will not deny that I am a Chinese, but if people ask me where do you come from, I will just say Hong Kong, because under the situation of one-party dictatorship, under this kind of regime, I can't really have a sense of identity of being a Chinese.
I'm going to have to stop you right there. Thanks for watching. See you next time.